I am Rebecca, 35 years old, and I thought this birthday party for my niece would be different. I arrived with a carefully wrapped gift, hoping the afternoon would go smoothly. My sister Amy looked me up and down before announcing to everyone, "Look who finally made it." "Still playing house with your cats, Beck?" The room erupted in laughter while I stood frozen, clutching my purse. What they did not know is that in 20 minutes, everything would change. Before I continue this story, let me know where you are watching from. Hit that like button and subscribe if you have ever had a family member who thought they knew everything about your life. Growing up with Amy was like living in constant competition. Except I never signed up for the race. Just 3 years apart, we were different in every possible way. Amy was the athletic one, the social butterfly, the straight A student. I was quieter, more creative, preferring sketchbooks to sports fields. Our parents, Margaret and William, never explicitly picked favorites, but their pride in Amy was always more visible, more vocal. "Why can you not be more like your sister?" became the unofficial soundtrack of my childhood. When Amy became captain of the volleyball team, our living room gained another trophy. When I won a regional art competition, my certificate was taped to the refrigerator for a week before disappearing into a drawer. After college, the pattern continued. Amy followed our father into corporate law, married Michael, her college sweetheart, and settled into a large suburban home with a pristine lawn. I pursued my passion for illustration, building a modest career creating artwork for children's books. Working from home gave me flexibility, but also provided my family with more ammunition. "A real job means going to an office, Rebecca," my father would say during holiday gatherings. "This drawing thing is a nice hobby, but when are you going to get serious about your future?" My mother was subtler, but equally dismissive. "Darling, have you thought about teaching art instead? At least you would have stability and benefits." The concern in her voice was genuine, which somehow made it worse. As the years passed, the focus of their disapproval shifted from my career to my personal life. Amy had 2 children by 30, while I remained single in my early 30s. Family gatherings became an exercise in endurance. "Tick-tock," Amy would say, pointing to an imaginary watch. "Those eggs are not getting any fresher." At my cousin Rachel's wedding 4 years ago, my Aunt Patricia cornered me by the dessert table. "You know, my friend Caroline has a son about your age. He is a dentist. Very stable. I could give him your number." I stopped sharing details of my life after that wedding. Not just about dating, but about everything meaningful. Why open myself up to judgment when silence was easier? I constructed a careful narrative, dedicated to my work, content with my independence, fulfilled by my close friendships. It was not entirely untrue, but it was carefully curated to reveal only what I knew they could accept. The holiday dinner 2 years ago was the breaking point. Amy had just announced she was pregnant with her second child, and the entire family was celebrating. In the midst of the congratulations, my mother turned to me. "Rebecca, honey, have you thought about freezing your eggs? I saw a program about it. And at your age, it might be worth considering if you ever want children." The table fell silent. I felt every eye on me, waiting for my response. I smiled tightly and excused myself to the bathroom, where I spent 10 minutes breathing deeply and fighting back tears. That night, I made a decision. I would maintain my relationship with my family, but I would protect my heart more fiercely. I would keep my private joy private. Most people would have cut ties completely, but despite everything, I loved my family. I loved my niece Lily, who showed an interest in art that Amy seemed baffled by. I loved my parents, despite their inability to see me clearly. And in some complicated way, I even loved Amy, who I believed was as trapped in her role as the golden child as I was in my role as the disappointment. But love does not mean allowing yourself to be diminished. It took me years to understand that setting boundaries was not selfish but necessary. My life might not have aligned with their expectations, but it was mine to live. Their perception of me as lonely and unfulfilled said more about their limited imagination than about my reality. So I showed up to family functions with carefully chosen anecdotes about my latest illustration project. I asked about Amy's children and my parents' golf games. I became skilled at deflecting personal questions with humor or changing the subject. And I built a wall around the parts of my life that mattered most. The parts that were too precious to subject to their scrutiny. What I never anticipated was how hard it would become to maintain this division. Or how much I would eventually want to tear down the wall I had so carefully constructed. Lily's 7th birthday party was a testament to Amy's dedication to perfection. The suburban McMansion that she and Michael had purchased last year was decorated in a princess theme, with pink and purple streamers hanging from every possible surface. A professional photographer roamed around capturing candid moments, and a face painter was set up in one corner of the sprawling backyard. Even the family dog, a golden retriever named Prince, wore a purple bow tie for the occasion. I parked my modest Honda between luxury SUVs and sat for a moment, gathering my courage. In the passenger seat was my gift for Lily. A custom illustrated storybook where she was the main character, embarking on adventures with her favorite animals. I had spent weeks on it, working late into the night after my regular freelance projects were complete. The front door opened before I could even ring the bell. "You're late," Amy said by way of greeting. She looked immaculate in a floral sundress, her blonde hair falling in perfect waves. "Everyone else arrived 30 minutes ago." "Sorry, traffic was bad," I lied. Not wanting to admit I had circled the block twice, rehearsing how to handle the inevitable comments about my life choices. The house was crowded with relatives and Lily's school friends. My mother immediately descended, air-kissing both my cheeks. "Rebecca, darling, you look tired. Are you sleeping enough? Those dark circles will become permanent if you are not careful." "Nice to see you too, Mom," I replied, scanning the room for my niece. "Where's the birthday girl?" "Outside with her friends. She has been asking when you would get here." My mother lowered her voice. "That outfit is a bit casual for a birthday party, do you not think?" I glanced down at my floral blouse and jeans. "It is a children's party, Mom." I did not realize there was a dress code. Before she could respond, my father appeared, drink in hand. "There is my artistic daughter. Still drawing pictures for a living." "Yes, Dad. Still practicing law." It was a weak comeback, but the best I could manage. The afternoon progressed predictably. Aunt Judith asked if I had considered online dating. Uncle Robert wanted to know if my little drawings were bringing in enough money for retirement savings. Cousin Stephanie, showing off her engagement ring to anyone who would look, gave me a sympathetic pat on the arm. "Do not worry, some people just bloom later in life." Michael, Amy's husband, was one of the few who treated me normally. "Good to see you, Rebecca," he said, handing me a glass of wine. "Lily has been excited all week knowing you were coming." "Thanks, Michael. How are things with the new position?" He had recently been promoted to senior partner at his firm, a fact Amy had made sure everyone knew via multiple social media posts. "Busy but good. Long hours." Something in his expression made me wonder if Amy's perfect life was not quite as perfect as she portrayed. Before I could ask anything else, Lily spotted me from across the yard and came running. "Aunt Rebecca." She crashed into me with the unrestrained enthusiasm only children possess. "Did you bring me a present? Is it a drawing? Did you make me something?" I laughed, genuinely happy to see her. "I might have made you something special. Want to open it now?" Lily grabbed my hand and pulled me toward the gift table, already piled high with professionally wrapped packages. My own gift, wrapped in paper I had illustrated myself with tiny princesses that looked like Lily, stood out in its homemade quality. "Mom, can I open Aunt Rebecca's present now?" Lily called to Amy, who was arranging a platter of cupcakes with mathematical precision. Amy looked up, her expression tightening slightly. "Presents are after cake, Lily. You know that." She glanced at my package. "And it looks like Aunt Rebecca brought you another one of her drawings." The slight emphasis on drawings made it clear what she thought of my gift. I bit my tongue as Lily was called away by her friends, leaving me alone again. The next hour passed slowly. I checked my phone repeatedly, responding to a text from David, "On our way. Emma just woke up from her nap. Everything okay?" I typed back, as expected. "Are you sure about this?" 3 dots appeared. Then, absolutely. Time to end the charade. We love you. The cake-cutting ceremony was elaborate, with Amy insisting on multiple poses for the photographer before allowing Lily to blow out her candles. I stood at the edge of the gathering, hyper-aware of the time and what was about to happen. Make a wish, sweetie, Amy instructed as Lily took a deep breath. I found myself making a wish too, that what was about to unfold would somehow heal rather than further fracture my family. After cake came presents. Lily opened one expensive toy after another, exclaiming with practiced politeness over each one. When she reached mine, Amy's expression was already prepared for disappointment. Look, Mom, Aunt Rebecca made me a book, and I am the princess in it. Lily's genuine delight was worth every late night I had spent creating the gift. She flipped through the pages, showing everyone the illustrations of Princess Lily saving magical creatures and exploring enchanted forests. How creative, Amy said, the pause speaking volumes. Very nice for a homemade gift. I checked my phone again. David had sent a simple message, here. My heart pounded as I steeled myself for what was about to happen. Was I making a terrible mistake? Was I about to ruin Lily's birthday party? But then I remembered all the snide comments, the dismissals, the years of having my life choices questioned and diminished. No, it was time. Past time. I met David Marshall 3 years ago at a gallery opening in the city. One of my illustrations had been selected for a children's book art exhibition, and he was there accompanying a friend who was a collector. Tall with kind eyes and a quiet confidence, David approached me near my displayed work. You captured exactly how it feels to be small in a big world, he said, studying my illustration of a little girl looking up at impossibly tall trees. I write children's stories myself, but I can never find illustrators who understand the emotional landscape of childhood. That night turned into coffee, which turned into dinner the following week. David was an architect by profession but wrote children's stories in his spare time. We connected over our creative pursuits and shared understanding of what it meant to follow a passion despite practical concerns. Unlike anyone I had dated before, David never questioned my career choice. He saw my illustration work not as a cute hobby, but as a legitimate artistic pursuit. You are creating the first images that will live in children's imaginations, he would say. What could be more important than that? After 6 months of dating, we moved in together. I never told my family. It was not a conscious decision at first, more an omission born from habit. I had grown so accustomed to keeping the meaningful parts of my life private that sharing something as significant as David felt impossible. How could I suddenly introduce this person who knew and loved the real me to people who had never shown interest in seeing beyond their limited perception? You should tell them about us, David encouraged gently after we had been together a year. I would like to meet your family. You would not after 5 minutes with them, I replied. Trust me on this. When David proposed on a quiet evening at home, no flashy restaurant or public spectacle, just the two of us cooking dinner together, I said yes immediately. We planned a small wedding at a botanical garden with only our closest friends present. David's parents, warm and welcoming from the first time I met them, flew in from Colorado. My family received no invitation. Are you sure about this? David asked the night before our wedding. I will support whatever you decide, but I do not want you to regret not having them here. I was sure. The day was perfect, intimate and joyful without the weight of my family's expectations or judgments. We honeymooned in Portugal, wandering through colorful streets and eating pastries by the sea. I felt a freedom I had never known before, to simply be myself without apology or explanation. When I discovered I was pregnant 4 months after our wedding, the joy was overwhelming. David spun me around our small kitchen, both of us laughing and crying at once. We created a nursery in our spare bedroom, David building the crib himself while I painted a mural of a magical forest on the walls. Emma Rose Marshall was born on a rainy Tuesday morning. 7 pounds and 2 ounces of perfection. The moment they placed her in my arms, I understood love in an entirely new dimension. David sat beside us on the hospital bed, one arm around me, one finger caught in Emma's tiny grip. She is incredible, he whispered. Just like her mother. The first year of Emma's life passed in a blur of sleepless nights, first smiles, and countless drawings of her ever-changing face. I scaled back my freelance work, taking on only select projects that allowed me flexibility. David's architecture firm offered him part-time hours after he presented them with research on the productivity benefits of parental leave policies. We created a life that worked for us. Trading off childcare and work hours, celebrating small milestones, building a family based on mutual support and joy. It was everything I had never dared to hope for. And nothing like the life my family assumed I was living. The guilt began to creep in as Emma approached her first birthday. David's parents visited regularly, doting on their granddaughter and building a loving relationship with her. My parents did not even know she existed. Lily had a cousin she had never met. "I think it is time," David said one evening as we watched Emma sleep on the baby monitor. "Not because you owe them anything, but because Emma deserves to know her extended family. And because keeping this secret is taking a toll on you." He was right. The division I had created between my family life and my life with David and Emma was becoming harder to maintain. The wall I had built for protection now felt like a prison. Each family gathering I attended alone required elaborate excuses to David's questions about weekend plans. Careful editing of stories to exclude my husband and daughter, a performance that left me exhausted. After Lily's birthday party, I decided, I will bring them to meet everyone then. David nodded, squeezing my hand. "I will be right beside you." I had no idea how they would react. Would there be hurt feelings about the wedding they were not invited to? Anger about the grandchild they did not know? Or would they be happy for me, finally seeing me as I truly was? The uncertainty was terrifying, but continuing the charade was no longer an option. So we made a plan. I would go to the party alone as expected. David would arrive later with Emma, now a chatty toddler with her father's kind eyes and my creative spirit. Together, we would finally bridge the two halves of my life. What I never anticipated was just how dramatic that bridging would be. After the presents had been opened and properly admired, the adults gathered around the dining room table while the children played in the backyard under the supervision of a teenager Amy had hired for the occasion. The conversation flowed easily among my relatives, catching up on jobs and vacations, health concerns, and community gossip. I sat quietly, nursing my single glass of wine, waiting. "So, Rebecca," my Aunt Patricia began during a lull, "Amy tells me you are still living in that tiny apartment downtown. Have you thought about buying a place? Building some equity?" I smiled politely. "My living situation works well for me right now. But surely at your age, you want something more permanent," she pressed. "A place you could raise a family in if you ever decide to settle down." "Not everyone needs the white picket fence to be happy, Patricia," I replied, keeping my tone light despite the familiar irritation building. "No, of course not," she backpedaled. "Some people are perfectly content with simpler lives." My mother jumped in. "Rebecca has always been independent. Although I do worry about her being alone so much. All those studies about loneliness affecting health, you know." "I am not lonely, Mom," I said, checking my phone again. David had texted that they were parking. Amy, who had been arranging leftover cake into perfectly proportioned containers, turned with a saccharine smile. "Rebecca prefers the company of her cats and her drawings, do you not, sis? Not everyone is cut out for the challenges of real relationships." The table fell into uncomfortable silence for a moment before my father cleared his throat. "Speaking of relationships, Michael, how about those client negotiations you were dealing with?" While Michael launched into a story about corporate acquisitions, I excused myself to use the bathroom. In the hallway, I leaned against the wall and took deep breaths. Just a few more minutes, and this performance would be over forever. In the bathroom, I splashed water on my face and stared at my reflection. Would this revelation heal anything, or just create new wounds? I texted David, getting nervous. "Still sure?" His reply came instantly, more sure than ever. "Emma is excited to meet everyone. We love you." As I returned toward the dining room, I passed the kitchen and overheard Amy and my mother talking in low voices. "I just feel sorry for her," Amy was saying. "She puts on this brave face about being fulfilled by her work, but who is really happy alone at 35? It is sad, Mom." "I know, dear. I worry about what will happen to her as she gets older. No partner, no children, just those cats and her drawings. We should try to include her more, maybe introduce her to some of Michael's colleagues. I have tried that. She turns down every introduction. I think she has just given up on having a normal life. Maybe we should look into one of those professional matchmaking services for her birthday. I stood frozen, my hand on the door frame. The casual certainty with which they discussed my supposedly empty life, their pity and plans to fix me, crystallized something inside me. This was why I had kept David and Emma separate from my family. Not just to protect myself from judgment, but because on some level, I had feared that my happiness would not be enough for them. That they would find some way to diminish it or take credit for it. But I was done hiding. Done letting their narrow vision define me. I walked back to the dining room with new resolve, taking my seat just as Amy returned with coffee for everyone. So Rebecca, my cousin Stephanie began, flashing her engagement ring. I am thinking of having some custom invitations designed for the wedding. Since you do that drawing thing, would you give me a friends and family discount? Actually, I do not do wedding invitations, I replied. My illustration work is primarily for children's publications. Oh. She looked disappointed. I just thought since you are not busy with family obligations like the rest of us, you would have time for a little side project. I took a sip of water, ignoring the bait. My phone vibrated with a text at the front door. Can I ask you something personal? Amy interjected before I could make my move. Do you ever regret focusing so much on your career instead of finding someone to share your life with? I mean, I love my children more than anything. And I cannot imagine missing out on that experience. All eyes turned to me, waiting for my response. The doorbell rang. Would you mind getting that, Rebecca? Amy asked. It is probably the clown I hired for the kids. He is late. I stood up, my heart pounding. Actually, Amy, that is not the clown. There is something I need to tell all of you. I walked to the front door with my family's confused eyes following me. Taking a deep breath, I turned the handle. David stood there, tall and handsome in a blue button-down shirt, holding Emma in his arms. Our daughter was wearing her favorite yellow dress, her dark curls framing her cherubic face. She had just woken from her nap in the car, and her cheeks were pink with sleep. Sorry we are late, David said loudly enough for everyone to hear. Someone needed a longer nap than expected. Emma rubbed her eyes and then spotted me, her face lighting up. Mama, she squealed, reaching out her arms toward me. David stepped into the foyer and gently set our daughter down. Go to Mama, he encouraged with a smile. Emma toddled toward me with the slightly unsteady gait of a 2-year-old, her arms outstretched. Mommy, up, she demanded when she reached me. I scooped her up, kissing her forehead as she snuggled against me. The familiar weight of her in my arms centered me, giving me strength for what was to come. David stepped beside us, placing a supportive hand on the small of my back. I turned to face my family. The dining room had fallen completely silent. Every face registered shock in different ways. My mother's hand was frozen halfway to her mouth. My father's eyes were wide behind his glasses. Amy looked as though someone had slapped her. Everyone, I said into the silence. I would like you to meet my husband, David, and our daughter, Emma. Emma just turned 2 last month. For several seconds, no one moved or spoke. Emma, oblivious to the tension, played with my necklace and babbled happily. Amy was the first to recover. What is this? She demanded, her voice tight. Some kind of joke? Not a joke, I replied calmly. David and I have been married for nearly 3 years. Emma was born 2 years ago. My mother stood up so quickly her chair almost toppled backward. You have been married for 3 years and never told us? You have a child we have never met. Her voice cracked on the last word. Yes, I said simply. Why? My father's question cut through the room. Why would you keep this from us? Maybe we should take this conversation somewhere private, David suggested gently, aware of the other relatives and Lily's friends still playing outside. No, Amy snapped. I want to know right now why my sister has been lying to us for years, pretending to be alone when she has. This. She gestured toward David and Emma with a jerky movement. I was not lying, I said. I just chose not to share this part of my life with you. That is lying by omission, Amy retorted. All those times we worried about you, felt sorry for you, tried to set you up with people, you were secretly married? With a child? What kind of person does that? The kind who got tired of being judged and diminished by her family, I replied, struggling to keep my voice steady. The kind who wanted to protect the happiness she found from people who never believed she could find it on her own terms. My mother began to cry, turning to my father for support. We have a granddaughter we did not know about. All this time. David stepped forward. I understand this is a shock for everyone. Rebecca and I discussed telling you many times. It was a difficult decision to keep our life private, but it felt necessary at the time. Necessary, my father repeated incredulously. What possible reason could make it necessary to hide your marriage and child from your own family? Emma, sensing the tension, clung tighter to me. Mama, who dat? She whispered, pointing at my mother. The simple question brought home the reality of what I had done. Not just protected myself, but kept my daughter from knowing her grandparents, her aunt, her cousin. The weight of that choice sat heavily on me, despite my reasons. That is your grandmother, I told Emma softly. And that is your grandfather and your Aunt Amy. And your cousin Lily must be outside playing. Hearing herself named, Amy crossed her arms tightly across her chest. So what now? You just show up with a family we never knew existed and expect us to act like everything is normal? Like you have not been deceiving us for years? I do not expect anything, I replied. I am just done with the pretense. Done with showing up alone to family events and listening to comments about my sad, empty life when the truth is that I have a beautiful family and a happy home. I am done being the cautionary tale, the spinster sister with cats and a hobby job. So this whole reveal is just to prove us wrong? Amy asked, her voice rising. To show off that you managed to get married and have a kid after all? Congratulations on achieving the bare minimum of adult accomplishment, Rebecca. You want a medal? Amy, Michael warned, placing a hand on his wife's arm which she immediately shook off. No, I want to understand why she would do this, Amy insisted. Normal people do not hide their marriages and children from their families unless they are ashamed of something. She looked pointedly at David. Is there something we should know about him? Some reason you kept him secret? David remained calm, though I could feel him tense beside me. I have wanted to meet Rebecca's family since we first started dating. This was never my preference. My father stood up slowly, his face grave. I think we need to have a family conversation. Rebecca, perhaps your husband could take your daughter outside while we talk. No, I said firmly. David is my family. He stays with me. And Emma stays with us. Fine, my father conceded. But the rest of you? He addressed the extended family members who were watching the drama unfold with poorly concealed fascination, should give us some privacy. As aunts, uncles, and cousins reluctantly filed out to the backyard, murmuring among themselves, Lily came running in from outside. Mom, Tyler says the clown is not coming, is that true? She asked. Then stopped short when she noticed the unfamiliar people. Her eyes widened when she spotted Emma in my arms. Who is that? Amy looked stricken, clearly realizing that her daughter's birthday party had been completely derailed. Lily, honey, why do not you go back outside with your friends for a little while? Grown UPS need to talk. But who is the baby? Lily persisted, moving closer to examine Emma with curiosity. I knelt down to Lily's level, still holding Emma. Lily, this is Emma. She is your cousin. My cousin? Lily's face lit up. Like how I am your niece. I have a cousin. Yes, I said, smiling at her excitement. Emma, can you say hi to your cousin, Lily? Emma, still shy around the unfamiliar faces, buried her face against my shoulder but peeked out with one eye at Lily. She is little, Lily observed. How old is she? She just turned 2, David answered, kneeling beside me. I am David. Emma's dad and your Aunt Rebecca's husband. I did not know Aunt Rebecca had a husband, Lily said with the innocent honesty of a 7-year-old. Or a baby. No one did, sweetie, Amy said tightly. It was a secret. Now please go play with your friends while we talk to Aunt Rebecca. As Lily reluctantly went back outside, my mother finally approached, her eyes fixed on Emma. May I? May I see her? She asked hesitantly. I stood and turned Emma slightly so my mother could see her face. Emma regarded my mother solemnly with her big brown eyes. She looks like you did at that age, my mother whispered. The same eyes. She reached out a tentative hand but stopped short of touching Emma. Can I hold my granddaughter? The simple question, laden with hurt and longing, made my throat tight. This was the moment where my protected world and my family of origin collided, with consequences I could not fully predict. Emma is a little shy with new people, I explained gently. Maybe after she has had some time to adjust. My mother nodded, withdrawing her hand with visible disappointment. The reality of what she had missed, what I had kept from her, was written across her face. I think, David suggested quietly, that Emma and I could get to know Lily a bit while you all talk. Would that be all right? I hesitated, reluctant to let them out of my sight in this hostile environment. I can show Emma my new toys, Lily suggested, having lingered in the doorway despite her mother's instructions. After a moment, I nodded. That would be nice. David will stay with her, right, honey? Of course, he assured me, taking Emma from my arms. We will be right outside if you need us. He kissed my cheek. A small gesture of support that did not go unnoticed by my family. Once David and Emma had gone outside with an excited Lily, the remaining adults stood in uncomfortable silence. Michael muttered something about checking on the other kids and quickly exited, leaving me alone with my parents and sister. Sit down, Rebecca, my father said, his tone making it clear this was not a request. I took a seat at the dining table, facing my family. My mother's eyes were red-rimmed, my father's expression grave, and Amy paced behind them, her arms still crossed defensively. Explain yourself, my father demanded. From the beginning. I took a deep breath. I met David 3 years ago at an art exhibition featuring some of my illustrations. We dated for a year, moved in together, and then got married in a small ceremony with close friends. Emma was born a year later. That is the basic timeline. And at what point during these major life events did you decide your own family did not deserve to know about them? My mother asked, her voice quivering. It was not one decision, I replied. It started small. After years of hearing how disappointing my life choices were, how my career was just a hobby, how I needed to settle down and find someone before it was too late, when I actually did find someone who valued me exactly as I am, I was protective of that happiness. So you're saying this is our fault? Amy interjected incredulously. That we somehow forced you to lie to us for years. I am not blaming you, I said, though part of me wanted to. I am explaining why I made the choices I did. Every time I considered telling you about David, I remembered all the comments, all the judgments, all the well-meaning suggestions about how I should live my life. And I just could not face bringing him into that environment. What exactly do you think we would have done? My father asked. Rejected him? Rejected you. Not rejected, I clarified. But questioned. Critiqued. Found ways to imply that even this happiness I had found was somehow not quite right or not quite enough. That is not fair, my mother protested weakly. Isn't it? I challenged. Just 30 minutes ago, before David and Emma arrived, what were you saying about me in the kitchen, Mom? That you felt sorry for me? That I put on a brave face but must be secretly miserable? That I needed to be fixed up with someone to have a normal life? My mother flushed. I did not know. I thought. Exactly. You thought you knew my life better than I did. You have always thought that. Amy stopped pacing. So you decided to punish us by depriving us of knowing your husband and child? Do you have any idea how hurtful that is? How cruel. The word hung in the air between us. Cruel. Had my actions been cruel, regardless of my reasons? I never intended to hurt you, I said softly. I was protecting myself and, later, protecting my family. Protecting them from what? From us loving them? My mother asked, fresh tears spilling. From the judgment I have felt my entire life, I replied honestly. From never being quite good enough, quite successful enough, quite normal enough. My father shook his head slowly. Rebecca, whatever issues you have with how we treated your career choices or your lifestyle, to keep a grandchild from us. That goes beyond reasonable grievances. The weight of his words settled over me. Despite my justifications, I could see the genuine pain I had caused. You are right, I admitted. Keeping Emma from you was wrong. I can see that now. But I need you to understand that it came from years of feeling diminished and judged by this family. Well, hiding your entire life from us certainly proved us wrong about you being a mature adult, Amy snapped, but there was less venom in her voice now, more hurt. Amy, my mother said softly. That is not helping. To my surprise, Amy's composure cracked. A child, Rebecca. A niece for Lily. A grandchild for Mom and Dad. How could you keep that from us? Whatever issues you have with me. With us, how could you think that was okay? For the first time, I saw beyond my sister's perfect facade to the genuine hurt underneath. It was not okay, I acknowledged. The longer it went on, the harder it became to figure out how to end it. But I am here now with my family, trying to bridge that gap. A knock at the patio door interrupted us. David stood there with Emma in his arms. Lily beside them. Through the glass, I could see Emma was getting fussy, probably hungry after her nap. I motioned for them to come in. Sorry to interrupt, David said as he entered. But someone is ready for her snack. I did not know where her bag was. It is in the car, I replied, standing up. I will get it. I will go, David offered, clearly reading the tension in the room. Keys. As I handed him my keys, Emma reached for me again. Mama, hungry, she stated plainly. I took her from David, and she immediately settled against me, thumb in mouth, regarding my family with cautious interest. After David left to retrieve the diaper bag, an awkward silence fell again. Emma broke it by pointing at my mother. Who dat? She asked again. That is your grandmother, I repeated gently. Can you say grandma? Gamma? Emma tried, the word unfamiliar to her. My mother pressed a hand to her mouth, visibly moved. And that is your grandfather, I continued, pointing to my father. And your Aunt Amy. Emma studied them all solemnly before hiding her face against my shoulder again. She has your eyes. My father said quietly, the first personal observation he had made. Yes, I agreed. But David's smile. She seems well cared for, my mother offered tentatively. She is loved very much, I replied. Amy had been watching silently, but now she moved closer, studying Emma with an expert mother's eye. Does she talk much? Lily was stringing full sentences together by two. Emma has her own pace, I said, tensing slightly at what felt like the beginning of another judgment. She is very verbal about her needs and has quite a few words. All children develop differently, Amy said, surprising me with the absence of critique. Lily was early with words, but took forever to potty train. This small offering, this tiny bridge between our experiences as mothers, felt significant. Before I could respond, David returned with the diaper bag and a tentative smile. Snack time for the little miss, he announced, pulling out Emma's favorite crackers and a sippy cup of water. We should probably let you feed her, my mother said, standing up. And check on the other children. We have disrupted the party enough. I am sorry about that, I said sincerely. Today was supposed to be about Lily. Life rarely goes according to plan, my father observed, rising as well. We have learned that today, have we not? As my parents moved toward the door, my mother paused. Rebecca, will you bring them again? Will we get to know our granddaughter? The vulnerability in her question made my chest tight. Yes, I promised. This was just the beginning, not a one-time reveal. After they left, only Amy remained, watching as I settled Emma in a chair with her snack. David sensed we needed space and murmured something about checking on Lily before discreetly stepping outside. You have a beautiful daughter, Amy said after a long moment. Thank you, I replied, surprised by the genuine compliment. I am still angry with you, she added, as if to clarify that one compliment did not erase everything. What you did was selfish. Parts of it were. I acknowledged. But, Amy, you have to admit that your treatment of me, your constant comments and judgments, contributed to why I kept my life separate. She looked away, uncharacteristically uncertain. I never thought of it as judgment. I thought I was helping, showing concern. By mocking me about playing house with cats? By making me the family joke? Amy had the grace to look uncomfortable. I guess I never considered how that felt from your perspective. No, you did not, I agreed. Just like I did not fully consider how keeping Emma a secret would affect all of you. Emma, oblivious to the heavy conversation, happily munched her crackers and babbled to herself. Does she like other children? Amy asked suddenly. Lily always wanted a cousin. She goes to playgroup twice a week and loves it, I replied. She would probably adore Lily once she gets comfortable. Amy nodded slowly. Maybe we could arrange a playdate sometime. On neutral ground. It was a small offer, tentative and careful. But it was something. A beginning. I think that would be nice, I said. As we sat there watching Emma eat, the weight of secrets and resentments still hung between us, but something had shifted. Not forgiveness exactly, not yet, but an opening. A crack in the wall I had built so carefully around my happiness. It would take time to rebuild these relationships on new terms. Time for my parents to process their hurt, for Amy to move past her anger, for me to learn to be vulnerable with my family again. But watching Emma, innocently unaware of the complex adult emotions swirling around her, I felt hopeful that it was possible. David returned with Lily, who immediately came to inspect Emma more closely. Does she like princess movies? Lily asked earnestly. I could show her my favorites. She is still a little young for movies, I explained, but she loves picture books about princesses. I have lots of those too, Lily exclaimed. Watching the beginning of this cousin relationship, Amy's expression softened slightly. We should get back to the party, she said. But maybe you all could stay a little longer? The other guests will be leaving soon, and then maybe we could talk more. It was an olive branch, small but significant. We would like that, I replied, catching David's eye. He nodded in agreement. As Amy and Lily went to attend to the remaining party guests, David sat beside me and took my hand. That went better than expected, he murmured. And worse in some ways, I replied. There is a lot of hurt to work through. But at least it is in the open now, he pointed out. No more walls, no more secrets. I watched as Emma finished her snack, blissfully unaware of the emotional storm her arrival had precipitated. No more walls, I agreed. The weeks following Lily's birthday party were a delicate dance of tentative connections and painful conversations. David, Emma and I did not leave that day until evening had fallen and Lily had extracted a promise from us to return soon. Though the atmosphere remained tense, that first step had been taken. The secret was out, and now we all had to figure out how to move forward. My mother called the very next day, her voice still rough from crying. I would like to see Emma again, she said without preamble. And to get to know David. Would you all come for dinner this weekend? The invitation was both expected and terrifying. I will talk to David, I promised. But Mom, if we do this, things need to be different. I cannot bring my family into an environment where we are constantly judged or criticized. I understand, she said softly. I have been doing a lot of thinking since yesterday. I never realized how our comments affected you. I always thought we were being supportive, concerned. I know you meant well, I acknowledged. But the impact was different from the intention. I see that now, she admitted. I cannot promise I will never say the wrong thing again. But I can promise to listen better when you tell me how my words make you feel. It was more self-awareness than I had ever heard from my mother, and it gave me hope. The dinner that weekend was awkward but important. My father shook David's hand with genuine interest, asking about his architecture work and listening attentively to the answers. My mother had bought a high chair and age-appropriate toys for Emma, her way of saying she wanted to be a regular presence in her granddaughter's life. She looks just like you did at that age. My mother marveled as she watched Emma play. I found some of your old baby pictures last night. I thought perhaps you might want them for her baby book. The gesture brought unexpected tears to my eyes. I would like that, Mom. Thank you. David fit into the family gathering with remarkable ease. His natural charm and sincere interest in my parents helping to bridge the awkwardness. By the end of the evening, my father was showing him old family photos, and my mother had extracted a promise to share Emma's favorite recipes. They are good people, David observed on the drive home, Emma sleeping peacefully in her car seat. I can see why keeping us from them was becoming harder for you. They are good people who sometimes say and do hurtful things, I clarified. But yes, I think this is the beginning of something better. Amy took longer to come around. The betrayal felt more personal to her, perhaps because we had been in more regular contact throughout the years of my secret life. 2 weeks after the party, she texted me, Lily keeps asking about Emma. Would you bring her to the park near your place on Saturday? Just the kids and us. I agreed, and that Saturday found us sitting on a park bench while our daughters played in the sandbox. Emma, initially shy, watched Lily with fascination, eventually allowing the older girl to show her how to use a plastic shovel. David seems nice, Amy said abruptly, breaking the silence between us. He is, I agreed. The kindest person I have ever known. How did you know? She asked, her question surprisingly vulnerable. That he was the right one? The question caught me off guard. Amy had always presented her life choices as obvious and correct, her marriage to Michael as picture perfect. He saw me, I said simply. The real me, not some version he thought I should be. And he loved what he saw. Amy was quiet for a long moment, watching our daughters play. I wish you had told me about him, she finally said. About Emma. I have missed so much. I wish I had felt I could, I replied honestly. But, Amy, every time we were together, you made it clear you thought my life was lacking, that I was somehow failing by not living exactly as you do. I never meant. She began defensively, then stopped herself. No, that is not true. I did feel superior sometimes. Your choices were so different from mine, and it was easier to see them as wrong than to consider that there might be many right ways to live. Her honesty surprised me. Where is this self-awareness coming from? I asked, only half joking. Therapy, she admitted with a small smile. Michael and I have been having some issues. We started couples counseling 6 months ago. It has been enlightening. This glimpse behind her perfect facade was startling. I had no idea. Of course not. I was too busy pretending everything was perfect to let anyone see the cracks, she said wryly. Something we apparently have in common. The observation made us both laugh, breaking the tension that had existed between us since childhood. I am trying to do better, she said more seriously. With Michael, with Lily, with everyone. To be more authentic and less concerned with appearances. Your big reveal at the party was actually somewhat inspiring once I got past being angry about it. Inspiring might be overstating it, I demurred. I handled everything pretty badly. Yes, you did, Amy agreed bluntly. But there was something brave about finally saying this is who I am. This is my life, and not apologizing for it being different than what everyone expected. We watched as Lily helped Emma build a lopsided sandcastle, the two girls already forming a bond despite the age difference. I would like Lily and Emma to grow up knowing each other, Amy said. To be real cousins, not strangers. I would like that too. I agreed. Then we have to figure out how to be real sisters, she concluded. Not the roles we have been playing all these years. It was not an instant transformation. There were still uncomfortable moments, old patterns that emerged in our interactions, hurts that needed addressing. But slowly, carefully, we began building something new. David's parents visited from Colorado the following month and were graciously welcomed by my family. Watching Emma bask in the attention of both sets of grandparents, I felt a complicated mixture of joy and regret for the time lost. No point dwelling on what might have been, David's mother advised when I confessed this feeling to her. Family relationships are always evolving. The question is whether they are evolving toward more love or less. Right now, I would say more. She was right. Each gathering became a little easier. A little more natural. My father and David discovered a shared interest in historical architecture. My mother delighted in preparing Emma's favorite foods. Lily appointed herself official cousin and protector, a role she took very seriously. Even my extended family, once they got over the shock of my secret life, found ways to incorporate us into the family fabric. Holiday gatherings were planned with Emma's nap schedule in mind. My career as an illustrator, once dismissed as a hobby, became a point of genuine interest when relatives saw my work in published books their own children read. The most significant change, however, was within me. The wall I had built to protect myself from judgment now seemed unnecessary, even counterproductive. By compartmentalizing my life so completely, I had denied myself the possibility of genuine connection, flawed though it might be. One evening, about 6 months after the revelation at Lily's party, David found me sorting through old family photos, adding them to Emma's baby book alongside pictures of our small family. "Having regrets?" he asked gently, sitting beside me. "Not regrets exactly," I replied. "More like realizations. I thought I was protecting us by keeping these worlds separate, but I was also limiting us. Emma deserved to know her family, even with their imperfections. And you deserve to be fully known by them," David added. "The real you, not the version they had constructed." "I am not sure they fully see me even now," I admitted. "But they are trying. And so am I." "That is all anyone can ask," he said, kissing my temple. "Growth, not perfection." As Emma approaches her 3rd birthday, the wounds of secrecy and revelation are healing. My relationship with my family is not perfect, may never be perfect, but it is authentic in a way it never was before. We disagree sometimes, miscommunicate often. But there is a new foundation of honesty that makes those challenges navigable. Amy and I have begun a tradition of monthly sister lunches, just the two of us, where we talk about our lives without filters or pretense. It turns out her perfect-looking marriage has its significant struggles, and my seemingly unconventional choices have their own challenges. In sharing these truths, we have found a connection that eluded us throughout childhood. The greatest gift has been watching Emma bloom in the expanded circle of love around her. She runs to my mother with unrestrained joy now, has special games she plays only with my father, and follows Lily around with total adoration. These relationships, once denied by my fear and hurt, have become central to her life. I have learned that protection sometimes looks like opening doors rather than building walls, that vulnerability can be a strength rather than a weakness, and that authenticity, however messy, is worth the risk. The facade of perfection, whether Amy's or my own carefully curated narrative, only ever kept us isolated in our separate struggles. There will always be judgment in this world, always be people who think they know better how you should live your life. The trick is not to hide from that judgment, but to stand firmly in your own truth, surrounded by those who see and love the authentic you. As I watch my daughter playing in the yard with her cousin under the watchful eyes of both our families, I wonder what possibilities await her in a life lived without the walls I constructed around my own happiness. What might we all become when we stop hiding our true selves from the people who should know us best? Have you ever kept important parts of your life hidden from loved ones? How did you finally bridge that gap? Share your stories in the comments below. Do not forget to like this video and subscribe for more real-life stories about family, growth, and finding your authentic path. Thank you for listening to my journey from secrecy to openness, from walls to bridges. May your own path lead to deeper connections and truer joy.